Hey, Black Belt Reads, back with another classic novel. One of these big classic books that go on people's all time great book lists and, 100 books you have to read before you die. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. This is a book I've never read before. It was one of those big classic books that everyone read in high school. Not me. I never had to read this in school. Maybe it was already banned by the time I was in high school. I don't know. This was one of these books that's on the banned book list, because there's a lot of coarse language in it. This is one of those books that I always heard about. I knew the title and the author's name, but I had no idea what this book was about. Um, no one ever really recommended it to me. A lot of people seem to dislike this book. It has a very negative reputation. Holden Caulfield is a young man, a teenager really, who's becoming a man. He's expelled from his college because he just can't be bothered to try. He just feels like it's all pointless and everyone's just kind of fake. And, he calls the adults phonies a lot in the book. There's a lot of repetitive language. He says the same things over and over, which I think a lot of people dislike. That didn't bother me. It really didn't. This is from 1951. Man, this book was such a breeze to read. I blew through it. It was so easy to pick up and read. And also, I just feel like the way it was written, I was able to just grab so much from it. I didn't struggle to understand what was happening or the themes. Sometimes these big, challenging books, I'm sort of struggling to grasp the theme, and then someone will explain it to me, and it's like, oh, I didn't catch that because I'm an idiot. Not this book. I mean, I felt like I was able to just pick up on everything and really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the time with the book. It's a coming of age novel. People don't like Holden because he's kind of a spoiled brat. He's kind of like a whiny baby who complains a lot. I totally get that. Definitely. I think teenagers are annoying too. I really do. But I can also really relate to Holden in a lot of ways. I mean, I was like an emo kid in high school, so I feel like I would have really liked this when I read it in high school. I don't know, maybe I'm glad I didn't read it then because I read it now as an adult. I'm a little smarter, a little more well lived, and can take more from the novel, presumably. Holden, he just feels very alienated. He can't seem to make a connection with anybody that feels real to him. He feels like everyone's just a bunch of fake phonies. They kind of like small talk, like "How you doing?" "How about that weather?" No one will have like a real conversation with him and get into any sort of deep feelings or anything with him. It's all just very surface level. Man, that is something that I struggle with still every day. I hate small talk. I hate when people are like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" It's like just something about it just drives me crazy. I just want to have a genuine connection with people, and that's very hard to do. That's one thing that I love about my wife is she's the same way. We have these deep, deep conversations and explore really, really deeply into things, and it's so, so magical. And then I feel like I walk away just on clouds when I talk to her. But most people in my life, it's like they're energy vampires and they're just sucking the life out of me because they're just small talk and it's just BS. So I can relate to that. What can I say? It's something that really spoke to me about the book. Holden is kind of a little weirdo. He talks about sex a lot, yet he never actually has sex. Anytime he sort of gets close, he ruins it. Maybe that's his subconscious fear of sex. Um, he he asks several times in the novel, "Where did the ducks go?" He gets in a cab and the cabbie's just talking to him. They're from New York, and Holden's like, "Where did the ducks go?" And everyone just thinks he's an idiot. Like, it's like, "Shut up, you idiot. Where did the ducks go? What do I give a shit?" And I just thought, where did the ducks go? It's almost like Holden is really asking, where do I go? Like, where does Holden go? He's really lost in life right now. He's very angry. He's lost. He's confused, and no one's really helping him. The Catcher in the Rye. I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know what the title was in reference to. So it turns out, okay, the rye is like it's like a field of grass, like a wheat field. So the rye, and he's the catcher in the rye. So someone asked him at one point, like, "What do you want to do?" He's such a downer. He's so depressed. What do you want to do in life? And he's like, "Well, I had a dream, or okay, no." He hears the song, and he hears this song, and it says, "When a body catch a body in the rye." I guess this is an old song back in the 50s. And he's like, "That's what I want to do. I want to catch bodies in the rye." He's saying that he wants to catch people. And then I think he's describing this to his sister. And his sister's like, "No, it's not catch a body, it's meet a body. When a body meet a body in the rye." And he's like, "Whatever, I don't care. Here's what I thought. Imagine you're on the rye and there's a cliff back here. And children are just running and falling off the cliff. I want to catch them. I want to be the catcher in the rye." He's saying he wants to catch these children from falling off the cliff. Well, that can be taken a few different ways. So Holden has a little brother who died, and Holden is very, very messed up about this. It's really, really tearing him up. He talks about how much he hates the adults all these times, and then anytime he mentions his little brother, he talks about what a great kid he was. My little brother Allie was great. He was just a great kid. I wish you would have met him. So Holden is really, really struggling with the death of his brother here. So in one way, you're thinking Catcher in the Rye. He wants to literally catch these kids from dying, the way he wishes he could have caught his brother potentially from dying. Or the more, sort of metaphorical falling off the cliff into adulthood. These children are falling off the cliff into adulthood, and Holden wants to catch them and preserve their innocence in a way. He seems to only like kids. He doesn't like any of the adults. He just likes kids because kids are innocent and more genuine in the way they talk to you, which I find to be true as well. Sometimes my son will say something, and I'm just like, man, that's just so funny, the things the kids say, because they don't have this negativity yet and this societal pressure to say the right things or whatever. And I sure hope I can, raise him to not fall into that trap. There's one instance where there's a couple of adults that he does, like. He's trying to like them. One of them is a teacher of his. So he goes to this teacher and he, kind of seeking guidance in a way. And the teacher just kind of he's not really helpful, but he lets him crash his house. So that's cool, I guess, until Holden wakes up in the middle of the night and this guy is sitting next to him and he's petting his head. And Holden is freaked out, really freaked out. Jumps up, makes all these excuses to leave. The guy's trying to get him to stay. He's like, "No, I didn't mean anything by it. I'm just, it's an innocent thing." Holden's like, "Yeah, all right, cool. Well, I gotta go." So he leaves. As he's leaving, he's literally trying to convince himself that it wasn't weird. He knows it was weird, but he also knows that this guy is a good guy, and he's done these things in the past that Holden was, proud of him. He had respect for this guy for doing. And then the guy does something like this and basically gets pervy on him. So Holden's really torn by, how can this guy be a perv and also have, helped someone when they really needed help in this instance. Yeah, that was, that's tough, man. That's really tough. All right. I don't do this a lot, but I want to do some quotes. I actually really love quotes. I don't do this very often because I feel like it's kind of lame, but I don't care. I'm just going to do it. I just want to do it. So first one is going to be page 114. "Then she left. The Navy guy and I told each other we were glad to have met you." Which always kills me. I'm always saying glad to met you to somebody I am not at all glad I met. If you want to stay alive, you got to say that stuff though. That's kind of what I was saying earlier. Just that fake, are you really glad to meet me? Or are you just saying it because it's just something people say? I feel like I deal with that all the time. Again, you can see why I'm kind of being an asshole, and so is Holden. But that's just kind of how I feel. All right, page 120. This one is interesting to me because we're living in an age where consent is such a more prevalent thing in our society. Um, so please keep in mind this was in the 1950s when this was written. So he says, the thing is, most of the time when you're coming pretty close to doing it with a girl, she keeps telling you to stop. The trouble with me is I stop. Most guys don't. I can't help it. You never know whether they really want you to stop or whether they're just scared as hell or whether they're telling you to stop so that you do go through with it. The blame will be on you and not them. I just thought that was very, very interesting, and that most of the guys in this era, they will not stop. They'll just keep going. They'll get kind of like rapey, right? But then it's like, do the girls actually kind of want that? Does no mean no? Or are they playing hard to get? Holden takes it very literal. When they say stop, he stops. Hey, that's consent. I was kind of the same way. I was never really forward with girls in my life. So again, I'm kind of relating to Holden again. All right, page 157. So he's in a museum, and he's trying to meet his sister in this museum, I believe. And he says, the best thing is that the museum was everything always stayed right where it was. Nobody'd move. You go there 100,000 times and that Eskimo would still be just finished catching those 2 fish. The birds would still be on their way south. The deers would still be drinking out of that water hole with their pretty antlers and their pretty skinny legs, and that squaw with the naked bosom would still be weaving the same blanket. Nobody'd be different. The only thing that would be different would be you. Yeah, I thought that was beautiful. Like the museum, it always stays the same. Whenever you go there, things don't change, but you change. Each time you go, you're different. So it's kind of like, have you ever been afraid to watch a movie that you loved when you were a kid? Because you're afraid if you go back and watch it now as an adult that you might not like it because it hasn't aged well, or because you have changed, or a band that you liked when you were young and now you don't even understand how you could have ever liked that band because they're so bad. It's stuff like that. So Holden is like afraid to go back to the museum because he's afraid he'll change and then he won't enjoy it anymore and it'll taint his memories of this place. I thought that was beautifully written. Page 181. So he's talking about going to see a movie, and he hates this movie. He thinks it's just so lame and phony and fake and, just not genuine at all. He says, the part that got me was there was this lady sitting next to me that cried all through the goddamn picture. The phonier it got, the more she cried. You'd have thought she did because she was kind-hearted as hell. But I was sitting right next to her, and she wasn't. She had this little kid with her that was bored as hell and had to go to the bathroom, but she wouldn't take him. She kept telling him to sit still and behave himself. She was about as kind-hearted as a goddamn wolf. You take somebody that cries their goddamn eyes out over phony stuff in the movies, 9 times out of 10, they're mean bastards at heart. I'm not kidding. I find that to be very true as well. I loved that. I highlighted that here. Yeah, just because someone shows a little, emotion, and you might, oh, they're very no, they're not sweet. They're just crocodile tears. Actually, the next page, 183. Anyway, I'm sort of glad they got the atomic bomb invented. If there's ever another war, I'm gonna sit right the hell on top of it. I'll volunteer for it. I swear to God, I will. That's just funny. Okay, last quote. Page 201. So Holden is at the cemetery. He's at his little brother's grave. Now, you can tell this is very hard for him to be here. Then I thought about the whole bunch of them sticking me in a goddamn cemetery and all. My name on this tombstone, surrounded by dead guys. Boy, when you're dead, they really fix you up. I hope to hell when I do die, somebody has sense enough to just dump me in the river or something. Anything except stick me in a goddamn cemetery. People coming and putting a bunch of flowers on your stomach all Sunday. Who wants flowers when you're dead? Nobody. Very dark, but that's kind of how I feel. I always make that joke from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where they ask Frank what he wants to happen when he's dead, and he's like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Well, do you want to be cremated or do you want to be buried in a casket?" And he's like, "What do you mean? When I'm dead, just throw me in the trash." And they're like, "Frank, you can't do that." And he's like, "What? I don't give a fuck. I'll be dead." All right, I'll stop there. I was surprised at how much I liked the book. I'm sure you can tell by how passionate I got a little bit there that I actually really enjoyed it. So, yeah, what can I say? Man, I also remembered that when John Lennon was killed. He was killed by Mark David Chapman, and this guy claims he was inspired by The Catcher in the Rye. So I'm like, what? That's so weird, you know? Like I didn't really get any violence at all from this. Like Holden gets beat up a few times, and then I remember there's one instance where Holden has this red hunting cap, and someone's like, "Oh, that's for hunting deer, yeah?" And he's like, "No, this is my people hunting hat." And yeah, it's kind of weird. He's just kind of making a joke. I think he's just being a dumb kid saying something, shocking just to get a reaction. Um, yeah, some people maybe globbed onto that. I think this book has been linked to lots of shootings and things like that. Very strange to me. Let me know if you've read it, what you thought. I'm sure most of you didn't like the book. It seems like most people don't like the book. Maybe I'm just a total weirdo. Thanks for watching. See ya.